The latest now on former President Trump. He's been invited to testify to a New York grand jury investigating the hush money payment for porn star Stormy Daniels, facing a possible indictment now as Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, is set to testify before the grand jury today. Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopina, joins us now. Joe, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, George.
This morning. Is the president going to go to the grand jury?
We have no plans on participating in that proceeding. It's a decision that needs to be made still. There's been no deadline set, so we'll wait and see.
But you and other attorneys have met with the prosecutors?
Susan Nicholas is leading the charge in this case, terrific lawyer, and she's dealing with them, and she's met with the prosecutors, correct.
So you expect an indictment?
I expect justice to prevail, and if that's the case, George, there shouldn't be an indictment. I mean, this case is outrageous, really. There should be a healthy dose of disgust from the bar, the legal community, prosecutors, defense lawyers alike. It's not what we do. This is not what we do. We are distorting laws to try and bag President Trump. I don't know if it's because he's leading all the polls. I don't know what it is, but clearly this prosecutor and this prosecutor's office has made an agenda of trying to get him. They've scoured his personal life and business life for 7 years to try and find something. And this is
well, this case is pretty well known, though, and there are three questions, simple yes/no questions at the heart of the case. I want to put them up on the board right there. Number one, did Trump authorize the payment to Stormy Daniels? Number two, was the payment properly recorded? And number three, was it connected to the election? So let's take all three of them in turn. Number one, did Trump authorize the payment to Stormy Daniels?
First of all we need to do is start and end with number three, because it's not.
Let's answer number one first.
It's not directly related.
Did Trump authorize the payment?
It's not directly related.
Did Trump authorize the payment?
It's not directly related to the campaign. It's regardless.
We're going to get to that.
Well, let's assume he did. For the argument, for this argument,
admitted that he did. So the answer to that is yes.
Let's assume he did. Okay, this was a plain extortion, and I don't know since when we've decided to start prosecuting extortion victims. He's vehemently denied this affair, but he had to pay money because there was going to be an allegation that was going to be publicly embarrassing to him, regardless of the campaign. And the campaign finance laws are very, very clear, George, that you cannot have something that's even primarily related to the campaign to be considered campaign finance.
But he did direct the payment be made. Number two, the second important question is, was it properly noted in the Trump Organization records, or was a false record made saying this was legal representation?
There was absolutely no false records made. To my knowledge, there was no false records made.
To your knowledge?
Correct.
So you're not sure?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, but my understanding of these facts is clearly there was no false record made.
But you would acknowledge that if a false record was made, that is a crime, a misdemeanor, correct?
No, I wouldn't acknowledge that any false record made in a private banking record.
If it were made, it is a crime. It's a misdemeanor.
It depends in what context. I could record something in my personal checkbook that says, I bought something for personal use, whatever. As long as there's no tax ramifications or campaign ramifications, it's not a crime. Whatever I do in a personal setting is different. There has to be a nexus here to the campaign finance. And the campaign finance laws are very clear, George, very, very clear. Any legal scholar, including former members of the Federal Election Committee, have said there's no crime here. There is absolutely no crime. And we should not be going down a road.
Michael Cohen went to jail for this crime.
No, Michael Cohen went to jail because he was a liar, convicted perjurer on a lot of things. He pled guilty to something that actually wasn't a crime. Something that wasn't. Bradley Smith, who was the former Federal Election Committee chairman, has even opined on that. Many legal scholars have opined. He's pled guilty that something was not a crime. There is no nexus to any payment, extortion payment, to being a campaign
that gets to the final third question, which is the most important one. As you identify, was this connected to the election? And the payment was made just days before the election. I assume that in addition to the testimony from Michael Cohen, you're going to have testimony from others suggesting that in fact it was connected to the election. The president was making this payment so this wouldn't come out before the election.
So there's a crucial distinction here, George. It really is. Separating campaign fund from personal funds. This was made with personal funds. Had this been made,
it would be a contribution to his campaign.
By his personal funds, it's been made. It's not a contribution to his campaign. He made this with personal funds to prevent something coming out false but embarrassing to himself, his family, his young son. That's not a campaign finance violation, not by any stretch. So personal funds and personal use of funds, spending to fulfill a commitment, an obligation, or an expense of a person that would be existing irrespective of the campaign is not a violation. And that's what you have here, George.
Well, one thing I think we can agree on, that this connection to the campaign is going to be one of the key questions in this case. Joe Tacopina, thanks for coming in.